Welcome back to AM Cleveland with Scott Newell.
There are 25 million step-parents in the United States, and with the high rate of divorce, that number should climb even higher. Let us hear the story of one stepchild right now.
It's a very familiar tale. We've all grown up with it. The story of the wicked stepmother. Hateful and jealous, she treats her stepdaughter like a servant, or even worse, tries to get rid of her permanently. The stepmother's own children come first, and if there's nothing left over, well, that's too bad. But that's only in fairy tales. In real life, stepmothers shoulder the burden of these myths and all the contemporary complications as well.
Sometimes I wonder where I've been, who I am, do I fit in? Make believing is hard alone, out here on my own.
Heather Friedman has good reason to feel out there on her own. It seemed for a while that nobody had time or space for her. She was like a hot potato, tossed back and forth. Heather's parents were divorced when she was still a toddler. She lived with her mother and stepfather until a year ago. When that marriage broke up, she went to live with her dad, Bob, and his wife, Vicki. But all was not well there either.
Every single time I would look at Heather, I would see her mom. And I would see that he's never going to fight her mom. And what happened was I took my feelings out about how he was dealing with Heather's mother. I took him out on Heather. It was 10 years of fighting for position. And I said, I can't do it anymore. I won't.
And so what did you do?
I said, Bob, goodbye.
Vicki felt she had to think first about her own children, baby Samantha and 7-year-old Matthew.
It was rough for the last few months because Vicki wouldn't even talk to her except good morning and good night. And she'd come to me and say, why is Vicki mad at me? Why doesn't she talk to me? I was trying to explain it's not you, it's just a situation that we're all in right now.
I was terrible. God, I would hate to have known me.
I made the decision that she should go because this was our marriage, and I decided, you know, my marriage is important to me, and I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to work it out.
So they sent Heather to live with her stepfather and his new girlfriend.
I was sort of confused because everything was just happening so fast.
You had a tough time getting along with your stepmother for a while, right?
Well, yeah, when I first moved in, it wasn't, peaches and cream because it was really tough because I really didn't know her that well. And I felt, my dad just married someone else. It was really tough because it would just, I'd go here and then I'd go here and I changed. I had 3 schools in 7th grade because I kept on changing back and forth.
Almost instantly, Bob and Vicki regretted their decision to send Heather away. She's back home now, and Bob is actively helping her pursue her dream of a singing career. He beams proudly through her voice lessons with Coach Becky Somberg, and now her stepmother, Vicki, sees her in a new light, too.
I really should have listened to her and listened to what she was really trying to say to me, and I was so deeply entrenched in what was happening to me that I wasn't listening to anybody else.
Do you love her, Vicki?
I adore her. She's so great. I get teary when I think of her. She's super.
Parents don't mean to hurt their kids. Sometimes parents think of them first and before their kids. They think, well, I want to do it. They don't mean to, but they're thinking of themselves because they forget, oh yeah, well, I might be hurting my kid, So I'm sure they don't really mean to, but they do it a lot.
And that story is not all that unusual. That's something that happens all the time. Jeannette Lofas from the Stepfamily Foundation in New York knows that. She's with us right now. Is that child well-adjusted considering that situation?
Heather is marvelous considering what happened to her. Something good happened to her finally. But that very often happens. That story is a classic story. The child acted out. The child was upset. The stepmother felt displaced, intruded upon in her new relationship. All of that's classic information, and there's a lot of it in that story there.
What would be the best way for a child to adapt to a new step-parent?
Well, the child is so often asked to adapt. Really, when we as parents have a responsibility to our children. If we divorce, we have a responsibility about that. If we have children, we need to learn, some of the dynamics of what happens when you divorce. It's not freeing, fulfilling, and fun. For children especially, and neither for adults that much. It's major shifts. Children want to have an intact family, they'll fight for it, and they'll act out in a new situation. You're not my daddy, so I won't listen to you. You're not my mommy, I won't listen to you. And then the stepmother, as we said in the beginning, or the stepfather stepmother can become cruel because she tries too hard. And the stepfather can say, oh, none of this for me, this is too tough, and he withdraws.
All right, now everybody goes through that, though, apparently, to some degree. How do you get people to realize that this is going to happen before it happens so that you can adjust for that?
Yeah. Education. What we do at the foundation, what our purpose is, coming out of my own stuff, is to educate people. I mean, marriage is the only license you can get without having to learn something for it. If you become a hairdresser, you need to learn how to curl hair or do something. So in a step marriage, in a step relationship, we need to learn the particular dynamics of step. In an intact family, you do A and you get B. That's what we're all trained about. In a step family, you do A and you get M. And you start blaming yourself or you blame the other person, and then all the stuff begins to happen. And you need to know that you're going to get M in a step situation.
Well, now, this is not a small situation here.
No.
Let's take a look at some of the statistics that the Stepfamily Foundation puts out. All right. 1 out of 2 marriages end in divorce right now. And it says here that it's now predicted the divorce rates will soon approach 2 out of 3.
This is a new study by the National Science Foundation in a book called Couples, that new marriages now are so endangered that they predict that 2 out of 3 new marriages will end in divorce. Now, isn't that something?
That is unbelievable.
I mean, would you cross a road or drive in a car where you much less have a relationship, or were those the chances?
We got a 2 out of 3 chance of that happening.
Yeah, I wouldn't go back to New York if the airplane says only 2 out of 3, going to go.
People are going to make it.
Right.
All right. Each day, 1,300 couples with children under 18 remarry, and 500,000 couples with children remarry every year. 7 million children, or 1 out of every 6, lives in a step family. 1 out of every 6.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize it's that big.
Yeah.
One
And
out of
single-parent households. Yeah.
1 out of every 5 children live with single parents.
So we are a step. This society has become a step society as far as we're concerned. That's the relationship we're dealing with. Even as single parents, we're dealing with step relationships, because if we're dating or having a relationship with anybody, we've got step stuff going on. I love you, but I don't love your kids. I mean, keep your kids out of this. So a woman will have to choose lots of times, or she has to decide how she's going to handle her life as a person who's dating or seeing someone, a man too, and as a mother. Now, an intact family, that went together naturally. You know,
what are the most common problems then, though, in a step-family situation, since we have so many of them? Are they remaining the same? What are they, and are they changing?
The classic syndromes and dynamics of step remain the same. What's changing is it used to be handled by denial, that the situation was even any different. The fairy tales were denied. Well, what we say is that the fairy tales are true. Very decent women and men go into a step situation saying, well, I love you, I love your children, you love me, you love my children. And then these children get to be these monsters, these wicked stepchildren, and they become cruel stepmothers. People want to get rid of them. I have children that I work with that haven't got the key to either household. Their mother's household or their father's household. They've got to knock before they can come in. Children, in order to grow up whole, need to have the esteem of one person, someone who loves them really unconditionally. Well, I mean, if you don't get a key, you know.
Are you a step child?
I'm a step everything.
A step everything.
I am the step woman. I mean, I was riding my bike through the park in New York, and somebody said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm the step everything." My mother and father divorced when I was 10 and a half. That was not done so much then. Both parents remarried. Then I married, and then divorced, and then remarried. So I have one biological child. Do you want to hear my family back? One biological child. I have 4 stepdaughters. I have 1 whole brother, same biology, 2 half-brothers, and 3 stepsisters, and 5 mothers and 4 fathers. I mean, you know, I have a whole lot of...
Boy, I don't know how you keep it all straight.
Well, you need a diagram.
We've got some stepmothers here, too, some other stepmothers. We're going to talk to them. Also, I want to find out what happens when you're trying to discipline the child, and the child says, "No, you're not my real parent." That's a tough one. We'll be right back.